and he rolled down his window, scoffed, said, "Not surprised to see you riding a bike after a effing DUI at 16 years young." He peeled off. I was shocked, stunned. I cried all the way home. That wasn't effing me, and that kind of stuff happened to me all the time too. My sister dropped out of high school. The amount of disapproving frowns from my friends' moms in the parking lot after church drove me insane. The time a classmate that my sister had hooked up with came up and kissed me forcefully on the lips without asking. They all knew we were twins. I had long hair. My sister had short hair. She has a freckle on her right cheek. I have a tattoo of a flower on my thigh. There are big tells. How hard is it? Anyway, deep breath. That was all a long time ago. The story I came to tell came a little later, before I had moved to the other side of the country. My sister had a kid. The father was unsurprisingly a deadbeat, an unemployed electrician who spent all his money on cigarettes and buying girls drinks at the bar. So it didn't take long for my sister to end up back home. She showed up on our doorstep cradling a newborn with a black eye. My parents immediately took them in. They were worried sick. She was still only 18 at the time. For a little while, we were a family again. Then my sister started to disappear for days at a time. She was going to the bar again. We live in a small town. Everybody knows everybody. I don't know how she got away with it. She abandoned her kid. Assumed my parents and I would pick up the slack. My parents and I were raising her kid for her. We were tired. My sister was back to her old self, behaving incredibly selfishly without thinking about how her decisions impact those around her. But I was just a few weeks out from leaving for college. I will admit that I was only thinking about myself too, counting down the days. I couldn't wait to get out of this dysfunctional situation I was in at home. I felt bad for my parents, but I couldn't help but feel excited to enter my next chapter. But then the day came where all HLL broke loose. My parents told me that they couldn't pay for college anymore. They said with the added bills from raising my sister's child, they wouldn't be able to swing it. They were deeply sorry. My world was turned upside down in a day. My sister's crappy life choices had effed me over more than I could have imagined. And she wasn't even around for me to yell at her. She was at the bar getting hit on by a bunch of creeps. I cried forever, applied to scholarships, got some help, but it wasn't enough. We were just too close to the start of the semester. It was hopeless. I had to get a job, start saving money. I called it a gap year, but it was really a work for minimum wage while changing someone else's kids' diapers for a year. I couldn't look at my sister. I was so mad that I was again being punished because of her. Just like when we were kids, I started to get back at her in little ways. My sister is a big anti-vaxxer. One day she was nowhere to be found. I strapped her kid into the car seat and brought him to the doctor. I pretended to be my sister at the doctor's office. I had been going to this doctor all my life, small town, and he still didn't realize I wasn't my sister. I got my sister's kid vaxxed without her ever knowing. I even brought him in for several rounds. No one ever found out. I printed out a resume I had made for her and I went and interviewed at different businesses around town pretending to be her. I was a model applicant, clean cut, presentable, smiling. I asked good questions, and seemed enthusiastic. I got the job. For her. When she woke up she was going to be a receptionist at a small insurance company not far from our house. 6:30 am and it was time for her first day. I shook her awake. She was blindsided, groggy, and couldn't understand what I was saying. I explained 3 times. She screamed at me to get out of her room. I threw a pantsuit at her I had ironed. I knew it would fit her since it fit me. She was crying. She may have still been drunk. I couldn't hold it in anymore. I yelled at her, waking up her kid and my parents. I told her that she wasn't going to punish our parents and me anymore, that she was going to contribute to this family. I told her that the office knows she is coming at 8 a.m. sharp, and she has to be there or else mom and dad are kicking her out. She finally understood. She got dressed, put on makeup. I made sure she looked presentable. Then I dropped her off. I told her I would look after her kid today. Mom and dad would step in for future shifts. She looked miserable, but I had not given her a choice. Today was the first day she was going to grow up. We were both so angry with each other. I didn't care. I was mad at my sister, mad at myself for letting myself be treated this way, mad at my parents for allowing her to get away with this for as long as she did. Why was I here at home instead of college, losing sleep over a crying baby that isn't mine? But that was all years ago. She later got fired from that job, but soon had to get another one. My parents wouldn't let her coast any longer. Playtime was over. I had done what I needed to do. My sister is doing okay now. She has a new boyfriend who she didn't meet at the bar. Crazy enough, they moved out of my parents' house together and have a second little hellion breaking poop. My sister is actually around to scold this one too. I'm doing better now too. I went to college on scholarships the following year, moved across the country. I am enjoying the simple fact that now when I make a decision, I personally experience the consequences of that action. Whereas before, when my sister made a decision, I would feel the ripple effects. No longer. So that is how I used my twin power to get back at my selfish twin sister who tried to ruin my life.